Welcome back to our last segment of Chapter 2, and this one's going to be a pretty short segment because we're almost done with the chapter. So let's look at the pictures one more time, and we'll just stop right on the page where we're reading because that's the last page. We have Chapter 2, The Vanishing Glass. Harry Potter in his cupboard under the stairs. The spiders. Dudley's presents. Oh, we forgot the gorilla and Dudley. And then Harry with the boa constrictor from Brazil. And then we are on the very last page, which is the boa constrictor slithering. And then those are people running out of the zoo because they see the boa constrictor out of his... There's no glass. Harry made the glass disappear. So now we're going to read the end of the chapter, and then we will be done with Chapter 2. Okay, it's going to go dark. Uncle Vernon waited until Pierce was safely out of the house before starting on Harry. He was so angry he could hardly speak. He managed to say, Go! Cupboard! Stay! No meals! Before he collapsed into a chair, and Aunt Petunia had to run and get him a large drink of water. Harry lay in his dark cupboard much later, wishing he had a watch. He didn't know what time it was, and he couldn't be sure if the Dursleys were asleep yet. Until they were, he couldn't risk sneaking out into the kitchen for some food. He'd lived with the Dursleys almost 10 years. 10 miserable years. As long as he could remember, ever since he'd been a baby and his parents had died in that car crash. He couldn't remember being in the car when his parents had died. Sometimes, when he strained his memory during long hours in his cupboard, he came up with a strange vision, a blinding flash of green light and a burning pain on his forehead. This, he supposed, was the crash, though he couldn't imagine where all the green light came from. He couldn't remember his parents at all. His aunt and uncle had never spoken about them, and of course he was forbidden to ask questions. There were no photographs of them in the house. When he'd been younger, Harry had dreamed and dreamed of some unknown relation coming to take him away, but it had never happened. The Dursleys were his only family, yet sometimes he thought, or maybe hoped, that strangers in the street seemed to know him. Very strange strangers they were, too. A tiny man in a violet top hat had bowed to him once while out shopping with Aunt Petunia and Dudley. After asking Harry furiously if he knew the man, Aunt Petunia had rushed them out of the shop without buying anything. A wild-looking old woman dressed in all green had waved merrily at him once on a bus. A bald man in a very long purple coat had actually shaken his hand on the street the other day and then walked away without a word. The weirdest thing about all these people was the way they seemed to vanish the second Harry tried to get a closer look. At school, Harry had no one. Everybody knew that Dudley's gang hated the odd Harry Potter in the baggy clothes and broken glasses, and nobody liked to disagree with Dudley's gang. And that is the end of Chapter 2, so you'll have to tune in next time for Chapter 3, The Letters from No One. I hope you're enjoying Harry Potter. I love you. Goodbye.